Hi guys, welcome to LeetCode question number 1207, unique number of occurrences. This is another easy problem and we're going to be using Python to solve it because that's the only language I know. Keep in mind that I've been coding for like 1 month, so everything I do is kind of new to me. I'm going to be working through the problem as I go and trying to explain my thought process. So there's probably going to be a lot of problems and ways to make my code faster. So feel free to drop any tips and criticisms in the comment section. All right, so let's get started. Here in example 1, we can see that our input array is a list of 6 numbers and the output is true because each value has a unique number of occurrences. For example, the value of 1 has 3 occurrences, the value of 2 has 2 occurrences, and the value of 3 has 1 occurrence. The value of 1 occurs at the index values 0, 3, and 4. The value of 2 occurs at the index values 1 and 2, and the value of 3 occurs at the index value of 5. For those of you who do not know what an index is kind of like the position of a value in a list. And in Python, all indices in a list start from 0. So in this case, our first value of 1 has an index of 0, and then the second value has an index of 1, and then so on and so forth. In example 2, our input array is a list of 2 values, 1 and 2, and each of those values is not unique because they both occur once, and therefore the output is false. All right, so to solve this from like a coding standpoint, my first step would be to go through our list and count the number of occurrences of each value. And to do that, we are going to use a for loop. So for each value I in our array. Okay, so we're using a for loop because we're dealing with a list, and we know that a list has a finite number of values. So that means our loop is going to end at some point. So that's why we're going to use a for loop. And so before we do this, we have got to create a place to store our counters. So what we're doing is we're going to go through our list, count the number of occurrences, and we need a place to store that counting. So I'm going to create a hash map or dictionary. And so what this is going to do is it's going to store our index / counter pairs as key value pairs. And that's what a dictionary does. Okay, so for each value I in our array, if that value I exists in our hash map, then we're going to add 1 to its counter. Else, if it doesn't exist, we're going to start the counter from 1. So what this for loop and hash map like combo is doing is it's going to go through the list. All right, so first time it goes through, it sees the value of 1, and it does not exist in our hash map yet. So, okay, we're going to assign it the counter of 1. Goes through the list again, sees the value of 2, does not exist in our hash map, so we're going to assign it the value of 1 as a counter. Goes through it again, sees that 2 exists in our hash map, and says, okay, we have 2 in our hash map, we're going to add 1 to the counter, so that 1 in the counter gets another 1 added, and there are 2 values of 2 in our hash map. All right, so now that we have a for loop that iterates through our list, counts the number of occurrences, and then stores that in a hash map or dictionary, we're going to move on to the second step. Hopefully you guys understood what that does. So our second step, I think, is going to be to kind of do the same thing, but now we're going to determine if each of the occurrences that we stored are unique. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create our hash map into a list so that we can work with it. So hash map. Okay, so keep in mind, guys, that I googled the dot values method. I didn't know that it took the values from the dictionary and stored it in a list. So it's okay to Google things, I think, hopefully. All right, so then we're going to go count hash map. And this is our new dictionary or hash map. And what this is going to do is it's going to store our, it's going to count the counting of the number of occurrences, and it's going to determine if those counts are unique. So same thing again, we're going to go for I, each value in our list of hash map. If that value I exists in our count hash map, then we're going to return false, because that means that our counting value is not unique. So if it doesn't, it's going to take our count hash map and take that value and assign it to number 1. That's the first count, and then it's going to return true if that checks out and that value does not exist in our count hash map. All right, so what this is doing is it's first taking our counter values from our original hash map and then turning them into a list with the dot values method. And then we created an empty count hash map that's going to store the number of occurrences of our counters. So for each value I in our list of counters, if that value exists in our count hash map, it's going to return false because that means that value is not unique. If it doesn't, it's going to assign it the value of 1. And if that value of 1 occurs again, then it's going to return false, or else it's going to return true. All right, so let's run the code and see if it works. All right, great. It works, but what I want to do is I want to check if it works if we change the test case. So say we change this to 3. So now we have 2 values of 1, 2 values of 2, and 2 values of 3. And hopefully it should return false. And yes, it does. So that's it, guys. If you learned something, like and subscribe, and please comment any tips. Thank you.